All right, this is a video companion to our Bluefin 2025 wrap up. Let's see if I can do this in less than 10 minutes here. I'm going to go over some things that we did in 2025, talk about 2026, and basically I'm just going to go through the blog and give you more information. Let's see if I can keep this under 10 minutes. I doubt it, though. So we had a great year in 2025. Bazite in particular was like popping off, getting all that real-world Bootsy testing. We, in Bluefin, we pretty much concentrated on sustainability and deleting as much things as possible and kind of setting ourselves up for success. So a lot of maintenance and a lot of things that are actually like invisible to you all. However, I wanted to throw this picture out here. This is me with Mark, Joseph, Laura, and Colin at KubeCon. We meet with them regularly at KubeCons. Like usually when I'm in Europe, I'll link up with Timothy or whatever, and we always take time, to talk about all the stuff, share metrics, see what's coming, ask for things, tell them how things are going and that kind of stuff. So this is always a good catch up for us. Right now, Bootsy is doing great. It's the donation of the CNCF there is important. So getting other organizations like Boot Crew, Blue Build, Secure Blue, everyone's building these things now. So like, this is why you're kind of seeing us moving away from the kind of universal blue way. Typically you might hear people saying universal blue distros, and that's like not what we want people to do. We're kind of moving away from words like that, like distributions, all the old terminology doesn't really apply to us anymore. It's just, we just make containers. So that's going to be my prediction for 2026. Like, making these is easy enough now that anyone can kind of make them. So 15.6 million developers is the number that the CNCF is publishing. So and most people know how to make image files in ops. So it's our job there of kind of advocating for this is kind of done. Now our job is really to help just contribute directly to Bootsy and keep our project healthy. So that's what we're concentrating on. You might have seen that we moved some stuff to a project Bluefin.org that is more of the opinion from Bluefin, and Bazite and Aurora have those as well. It's where we keep more of the image stuff, and it's nicer to have things broken up than one monolith, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The first thing we got here is to-do.projectbluefin.io. This will always take you to our project board. We've been organizing this kind of in major tasks, and the nice thing about this board is it holds things from multiple repos. So we'll be able to kind of have a 10,000 foot view of like where the project is. So you should be able to look at these and see what's going on. If you have not read a project board before, here's how it goes. Each column, you read it left or right. The top stuff is prioritized, so top to bottom. So this testing branch for Bluefin LTS is like our next to-do item when someone shows up. This is draft. It means no one has claimed it yet. And then we kind of go in order of things, and then we organize these. In progress are stuff that people are working on, also in order. So right now, moving Bluefin and Bluefin LTS to the common repo is our priority. This is what's in progress here. And then done is everything that we have done. You should be able to scroll down once a week or whatever and see what's going on here. This important one here is blocked. Things like the new ISO builder and all that stuff is blocked. We're either waiting for Bootsy, GNOME, uBlue, Fedora, whoever. So we track those here, and stuff that's like later is things that we have, but like we kind of like lost track, or other things are in priority and need to happen. So like it's kind of like, all right, we'll look at that next time without too strong a commitment there. So you can check that out. I've also updated the contributor guide. We'll have everything that I am talking about here today, including the reasons, architecture diagrams, all that kind of good stuff that I'm going to go over today. So most of the refactor for Bluefin, and this includes Aurora as well, has been shifting away from the packages repo. So what we used to do is you had Bluefin. If you wanted to do something in it, you had to make a change in an RPM in a packages distro, and then it would build the RPM, and then the next time Bluefin builds, it would ingest that. Then we made Bluefin LTS, and it would do the same thing, except you have to go back to the packages repo. You got to do copper stuff. You got to do RPMs. You got to bump spec file, a bunch of stuff. It's a bunch of distro stuff that like I didn't really want to do. So this makes things problematic because it kind of ties us to that RPM ecosystem, and we don't want to do that. We want to move away from all of that stuff. So we wanted to move to basically, hey, can't we just assemble the whole thing with containers? Which is what we wanted to do initially, but I don't know. Sometimes things just happen. We had a bunch of other small issues. So Bluefin, the repo, has been around since the beginning. So it was built on RPM OS tree and then later adapted to boot C. Bluefin LTS was from scratch boot C. So it was kind of perfect in that manner, but it didn't have a lot of the Bluefin stuff, so we had to manually copy all of the things there. Some of that went through the packages repo, some of it did not, and it led to inconsistencies. So sometimes it's weird. You're like, why is this just file in Bluefin but not in Bluefin LTS? And this drives me nuts because they're supposed to be the same product. So meanwhile, we're trying to share things with like Aurora and Bazite, and Bazite is very much into RPMs. Aurora and Bazite, or Aurora and Bluefin, not so much. So we re-architected it to look like this. So here we have a bunch of just normal containers and then some base images, and then we make the OS. So the way it works is we have one thing up here. This is a project Bluefin Common. This is in that new GitHub repo. And in there we put everything that is actually Bluefin. It's like the config, the just files, the message of the day, the service units, all the stuff that makes Bluefin. Like usually if you want to fix something, it's in here. And we share this with Aurora, because what Aurora does is they take the stuff that applies to all systems and then they grab that. But the Bluefin specific stuff, we keep in a separate directory in there, so they don't have to copy all that stuff. Then what they do is they have their own container where they add all the Aurora stuff, and then that makes them happy. So in a way, this gives us one place to fix all of common config, but then allows the custom images to retain their individualness, I guess is the word. What's really great about this is you can use and consume as much or a little of each of these as you want in your own custom image. So that's handy. We moved all of Homebrew outside of, like, we used to package it in RPM, and it's just unholy. Like, we don't like that. We just made an entire Brew OCI container. It grabs Brew when Brew does a release and shoves it in an OCI container. This is hosted in uBlue and it's shared by Aurora, soon to be Bazite. And this just gives, like, if you want to install Brew, this is how you do it kind of vibes. And it's very clean, signed and everything. So you can also use that or not use that in your custom image. So we get the config, Brew, our artwork, and then our branding, which the branding only has a few things in it currently right now. And that whole top layer is Bluefin, right? Like if all of the configs that we make, like the opinion. And that's important to remember because below that you have the base images. So first we have, on the right, we have CentOS Stream. This is just a CentOS Stream base image. And on the left, we have the Universal Blue base image. This is shared with Bazite GNOME, and that's eventually sourced from Fedora, but that's not in this chart because we just grab it from uBlue. So we take Bluefin the opinion, Bluefin the base images, you smash them all together, and an operating system comes out. So that is either Bluefin stable or the LTS variants over here. So same Bluefin, different ways to consume it. So in the past, if I wanted to fix this, we would have to copy it between these two boxes. Maybe. It wasn't even consistent. That just sucks. So now we have a consistent way to do it. This has already paid a bunch of dividends and lots of stuff. So I explain what each of these repos do here. And this is the final assembly here. However, we do have a third one that we're looking at, and the contributors guide is up to date, is and I'll get to that in a minute, where the diagram actually has this in it. So this is, I talked about like decoupling a lot here. It's all about like getting rid of blobs and having nice clean abstraction layers, because if I have this, that means I could add whatever I want here and get an operating system. And that's important in a world of like Boot Crew where they're making base images for everything, right? And then eventually a bunch of you will come to realize that, wow, we don't need as many things down here, which is what I've been saying since the beginning. So let's talk about that. But this, first of all, this is very good for us because A, it's easier to maintain. It's easier for new contributors to sign up and look, because in those Git repos, they're just in branches. Like they're just plain text files and you edit them. There's no, hey, go edit an RPM, wait for a copper to build. You don't have to do any of that stuff. All of that stuff is just self-contained now, and it's one less piece of infrastructure that we need to depend on. And we also went through and cleaned up a bunch of just files. They all have confirmation dialogues now. We've trimmed them down considerably. I know some of you are like, oh no, my just files, but a lot of this stuff is just old jank that needed to go. So we're definitely doing a less is more approach with the just files. So it needs to be clean, tidy, tight. remember that you can make a .just file or just file in your own home directory if you want to add your own stuff. And that's what we'd like to see you do instead of everyone trying to maintain this like huge set of just files. So we just got rid of a bunch of that stuff. We've been trying to do this for a while, so thanks for your patience on this one. It led to some inconsistencies, which is a bummer. Now I want to talk about the user visible changes, because this is what's actually, I had to explain all that crap to tell you what's actually happening here. So we did a separate blog post on it. You're going to have to go read it because it is quite long. Well, not that long. But we are merging Bluefin GTS into Bluefin, which is Bluefin stable. So Bluefin GTS is like the Fedora -1 version, and this has led to a few overhead problems. First of all, we got to keep an old set of old stuff around and build. So even after a new release is out, uBlue still has to keep a copy of those GTS K-mods and images and all that stuff building for an extra cycle for a distro that isn't getting much attention, which initially was the appeal, right? It's like, okay, no one's messing with this one. It should be pretty good. GTS was our first Bluefin at the time when we were trying to hit that Ubuntu sweet spot that it's like, I want something modern, but I don't want to get shredded, by an aggressive update schedule, right? So we were kind of trying to find that middle ground there, and Fedora -1 really fit a niche. However, a few things have led to this is, first of all, product confusion. And I think McPhail pointed this out the most. It's like the whole thing is confusing. Like people would know what Bluefin LTS is. People know what Bluefin is. But then you add GTS, and it's like the car analogy. And it's just like, I get it. Like that's a bad idea. So we kind of slimmed down from 3 products to 2. So just Bluefin and Bluefin LTS. This will be transparent to you. We're basically just upgrading you a cycle early. And then we're going to ensure that those GTS tags always point to stable from now on. Got a lot of information in there. What we're going to do is on March 1st, and we're putting this everywhere, is everyone will be together on Bluefin stable. This actually naturally happens every time there's a Bluefin release when both stable and GTS are the same version until the new version of Fedora comes out and that gets promoted. Now everyone's just going to go together. This dramatically simplifies a bunch of things. uBlue can get rid of a bunch of builders, and it just makes everything easier for us as well. And then it is kind of tied a little bit into Bluefin LTS. Like, I know it sounds, hey, older software is more stable, but like, I know some people actually believe that, and there's multi-billion-dollar companies making a lot of money backporting a bunch of that stuff. But here in enthusiast land, like, you got to have the latest stuff, but it also needs to be well tested. So what we want to do is kind of move more towards a modern cloud native approach that is test branches and things like that, which we don't have. So I'll talk about that in a minute. So first of all, you might have noticed parts of GNOME 49 landing in Bluefin LTS. This caught us by surprise, but apparently that's what they're doing. But that's going to feel good. GNOME 49, it feels like they're about to update this once a year. I don't have any inside information. There's a few things that suck about LTS. The tuned policy needs a fix. That means after installation, you have to run one command to make the power switcher works. I hate this, even though it's like a minimal thing. It's like, you take 50 of these and that's what it feels like to use like a Linux distro. So like, but just having one is now infuriating to me. So, we're hoping to get a fix for that at some point. And there's still some inconsistencies there as we're moving that to the common layer. I don't know if you saw on the to-do board, but we have not yet moved LTS over. And Bluefin LTS also in the HWE branch now has a Fedora kernel, which means we get secure boot. So you can effectively run an LTS with a modern kernel with way less user space regressions because it doesn't update as much. I think personally that this is a place for a kind of GTS style user to be. However, it is an upgrade. Like you do have to do a reinstall. So we're not expecting every Bluefin GTS to like user to go do this because that kind of sucks, But I am feeling that the new structure for regular Bluefin will keep you there if you move to stable, but LTS is still fine. In hindsight, if we would have started from the beginning and all of these things would have existed, it would have just made sense to make one Bluefin LTS with a hardware enablement badge, and that would just be Bluefin, right? It wouldn't be a thing. But, things happen and stuff like that. So that's fine. However, there are other ways to do this, and this is what I'm really excited about. This is Bluefin's Distroless future. I've been talking a lot with the GNOME OS folks. This is a modern Linux built like how the systemd folks define it, so that gets us a lot of good stuff. Systemd boot, systemd homed, say goodbye to grub forever, a bunch of the things that we've really been wanting in modern Linux, and it's tough to ignore the stuff that's happening in the Linux user space API group. It's just too good. To let you know how dedicated I am, I even joined Matrix. That's right, Matrix. And started talking to the GNOME OS folks. I've known Sri for a long time, and he helped me out. So we're going to make one of these. We have it. It's called Distroless. Don't worry, we're not going to call it that. That's just what we have. This is the Dakota Raptor. But yeah, it boots in a VM and everything. It's not quite finished as well, but this is one of those important things where I know some of you are cynical, be like, oh man, they're going to make another one of these. Why don't they just concentrate on the one, especially if you have a bug that you hate that we can't fix. But if you look at this, adding another column is trivially easy. It's literally just a bunch of GitHub actions. And what's really great about this is we've kind of come to the point where this part here that you think Bluefin Distroless is going to be is just a set of GitHub actions. And now it's going to be all about GNOME. It's all about GNOME. So it's kind of a different vibe. Instead of going to a distro that gives you stuff, you go to your main thing, which is GNOME in this case for us. And they're going to provide a modern operating system. And thanks to the boot crew, we can get that as a bootsy image. So that means we can do our GitHub actions, all of that good stuff. However, you might notice is there is no system package manager at all, even at the build step. So you can't do DNF install even in the container file. So this model is for people that only want to do this, right? There's no, you're completely cutting out the middle transport layer, right? You got GNOME, Bluefin, and then that's it, right? There's no intermediate step where it's like, well, then you get your software. It's packaged via an RPM somewhere. You got to wait for a distro to, no. Your distro and GNOME just become one, and we just call it GNOME now. There's no reason. It's just, people conflating and confusing this enough as it is. It's just the model. The model is flipped and just goes away. So we just get GNOME. So this is important for us. These people are like, they move really fast. You're getting the latest stuff. I feel that the one that's going to be dailies is going to shred. It's going to be easily our fastest Raptor because you're just getting things from the place that makes it. There's no intermediate step. So that makes it nice. And with our cloud native approach, we're going to have the next testing and stable branches. We'll be able to kind of present those to you in a way that you can consume, right? So if you want the latest stuff, you would go to testing or next. And then the stable one would be on the stable GNOME version from GNOME, and it would be great. We could do an LTS here. We have talked about it. It's like, man, you slap an LTS kernel in there now I have everything. So, but we'll see where it works. The tech behind this is called BuildStream. There is some stuff that we have to do, but one of the things I love about all this modern infrastructure, and BuildStream's an Apache project, that makes it nice and easy. It's an easy decision. One of the things that's nice is like all of this new stuff is just designed for automation out of the box. We're not trying to cram, like we spent months trying to make an automated RPM builder in GitHub, and it's just easier to just grab the source code and build it in an action. So very excited about this stuff. I go into it here. Also want you to remember that this way of assembly is new, but the payload itself is not. So you're going to get real GNOME. You're going to get a real kernel, all of that stuff. And one of the things that has me the most excited, here's a picture, Jumpy VI has one. One of the things that excites me the most is your system libraries, right? Like a cynic would say, why is GNOME making a distro? You know, you have to do all these things. Yeah, if you're trying to package the entire universe, you got to do a bunch of stuff. But if you don't have to do any of that, it's relatively straightforward, right? It's going to be a GNOME desktop, a kernel that we can get from anywhere. You know, oh man, I'd love to have the Ubuntu kernel as an option, right? We know that thing's battle tested. That has millions of users. Your free desktop and GNOME runtimes cover all of the system libraries. That means the same libraries that you're using in Flathub are the system libraries themselves, you know. Haven't done the math on the savings we'll get with Compose FS and doing all that shared storage and stuff. That is to be determined. But, however, it's nice, which means millions of people are already using these runtimes. So we're just kind of assembling a duct tape thing at the end. So I'm really excited about this. It's basically set up to just build every day. So as it gets closer to GNOME 50, it will start to look more like Bluefin. Right now the extensions work and stuff. Because GNOME 50 only. If you're excited in this, here's the best part. We don't even need a lot of help in Bluefin at all. Like, we have those top layers already. We're doing the thing. We just need you to test the thing. And then what's really great here is anyone who actually wants to help on this, you can just help GNOME directly, because that's where the help really needs. And that's what's supposed to happen, right? We're supposed to be the delivery service. I say this here, and I mean this with great vigor. Distroless means spending more time with the things you love. That's using my freaking desktop, and not so much time with the delivery service and being all about that stuff. So I'm really excited what the GNOME folks are going to deliver. Let me be clear: these other images are not going to go away at any time. Every time we announce someone, people think we are deleting things, except for GTS. Fair enough. But we're merging, and I think that'll be better. So that's what we're going to do for 2026. The biggest thing in 2026 is going to be the merge. GNOME OS is a slow burn. You're just going to sit there and watch the automation and be like, okay, it's getting better and better and better until it releases. So that's good. Now I want to talk about the Bluefin developer experience. 60% of you turn this thing on when I survey you. We got the numbers in from the CNCF, 15.6 million. Super stoked about that. We having the actual data of people that are using it, so like, you don't have to feel bad when someone on Reddit tells you that containers are weird. They're just wrong. But we've really been spending a lot of time on the developer experience. I think Douglas and Ahmed especially trying to move away from having a dedicated DX image, right? Like, DX is fantastic, but what if you don't like Visual Studio Code, right? You can add JetBrains. We give you JetBrains Toolbox, and it's amazing, but you still have this thing where it's like a little bit too opinionated. So we are moving to Homebrew for a bunch of our IDEs. Here's what we have right now. JetBrains, the Toolbox, we added Codium, and these are in our own tab for Homebrew, which I will talk to about here in a little bit. And we want to get rid of these. Like, we mostly just want to prove that people want to use Homebrew for Linux for IDEs. So the more people use these, we're hoping to send pull requests and talking to the authors of IDEs to just, hey, turn on your Linux build in Homebrew, because it's like 3 lines usually in the code for a Homebrew formula. They do Windows, they do Mac, and then they don't do Linux because no one knows that anyone's using this stuff. So now that we're starting to get those numbers up, people are starting to pay attention, and this really helps us out with IDEs. Because these IDEs, people, you have to convince them to move to like a Flatpak world and stuff. And like, that's fantastic, but also we ain't got time for that. And they're not really listening. So what we can do is kind of get things out there, get people interest in them, and at least get the numbers up for Linux, and then, at least get a win there. So this will make us less VS Code specific out of the box. When you run DX mode or whatever, we'll do it. Instead of installing a bunch of stuff, we will launch this. This is called Bold Brew. I'll talk about this in a little bit and give you options of different IDEs to install. This is the production tab, and we have an experimental tab as well that has all the goodies. So what will happen is you'll have a list of stuff in here, and you'll just kind of be able, from the command line, pick and choose what you want. You can either hit Control A and install them all, or you could just like install the ones that you want. So I'm pretty happy about that. Working with Vito here on Bold Brew. This is an amazing project. Go check it out. It's written in Go if you want to help out. There's a lot of cool things that we could be doing with this tool. So like, it's just fantastic work here. And if you hadn't catch this yet, we do have Flatpak support in Brewfiles now. So now did I put an example here? Your files will have, your Brewfiles can have your CLI and your Flatpaks in one. This mirrors what you have in Mac. Like Mac people, they have one file with the command line tools and then their graphical tools, and they can copy that around between their computers and be happy. So with this is nice because it's built into the brew bundle command, so you can install a bunch of stuff, apps and things like that on your computer, do brew bundle dump, you get that file, shove it in Git somewhere, and you're good to go. So very happy with how this is coming along. Here's the experimental IDE section. Here it is. See how these are all plain text Now, if you wanted to add stuff to this in the past, you would have to put it in here and then send a separate pull request to like bump a packaging spec file and stuff. Now we just shove them in here and then they're in the next build. This is our experimental IDE stuff. We put the individual Jetpack or JetBrains ones in there if you want to use it. There's an experimental EMACS one in there. I'd love to see people bang on that. Let us know how it goes. I know EMACS has been problematic for folks. Some people are doing systemd, system extensions. I don't know. Try it. Let me know how it goes. And then we got anti-gravity and cursor in there as well, which are like two kick-ass new IDEs. And lastly, Swift support. So we had a little list there. Sorry, I forget your name. Person who submitted it, leave a comment below. We'll install the Swift stuff from Brew, and the VS Code extension or whatever is all optional in there. So that's pretty good. This tap is a place for us to prototype. We are definitely not packaging every single IDE on the planet into this thing, because that's just inventing a distribution, and we don't want to do that. What we want to do is get people going so they can get their machines working, and then get those numbers up to show the IDE offers. Like, look, you might not need to redo your entire thing to do Flatpaks yet. We don't have those kind of numbers, but you can at least turn on Homebrew for Linux, which is a much easier ask for them, and we'll see how that goes. That's what I'm most excited about 2026. AI machine learning tools. I've started to call this Bluespeed, which is really our set of AI tools that we recommend here. We have all of the good stuff. I'm really excited about Block. This is one that I'm using lately. It's like it was donated to the Agentic AI Foundation. It's open source. I haven't met those folks yet. Really looking forward to it. But that connects to everything. So you kind of have like an open source portal thing. That's like the thing you interact with is open source, but then connects to all those services, including the self-hosted ones. So you kind of have a one UI there. And that's one that I'm excited about. And then for all of these in the Brewfile, Codex, Copilot CLI, Gemini, LM Studio, Mr. Vive, CoinCode, all of the projects, all of the repos that we use a lot have an agents MD and Gemini instructions and all that stuff. So you should be good if you use these tools to do that thing. Check the contributing guide for more information. Consolidated ISOs. This one took me a while. We used to have ISOs be built out of every Bluefin, but that took way too. That was just a little centralized in the wrong direction. So we made this. This makes a bunch of ISOs for everybody. So we'll just have one repo that makes all the ISOs instead of going repo to repo to repo to do an ISO update and stuff. Something you might not know is in the documentation under contributing, we have ISO testing. These are testing ISOs that get generated automatically. And you can always test these. So what we used to do, because the ISO workflows are so jank, is we would have to do everything live and locally and then upload it, right? So now what we can do is we can constantly push to this testing, and this page won't change. And this is in a separate bucket. So you'll be able to test these ISOs. And then after we get a step, we just say promote these. Like we didn't have a promotion process. We're kind of doing it live on hopes and dreams. So this will make the ISO testing a lot more reliable, things like that. And that's something that I'm looking forward to working in. Fortunately, there's some issues with Bootsy right now, so we got to wait for a release. So we'll probably do that next month or something like that. And we'll have fresh ISOs every month, and those will just be automated. So it's nice. I used to have a button before, but you had to wait 30 minutes, and that really annoyed me. It's nice when they're just there automatically. Powerwash is here, finally. We've aliased this as you just Powerwash. This is an experimental feature. It actually means Bootsy install reset, and then you would just follow the directions. We put 2 warnings before you run this command. This will blow away all of the data on your computer so you can like donate it to somebody. So check out the documentation on that. The coolest thing is you can do Bootsy install reset and then give it another Bootsy image. So if you're like have your laptop and you're like, I want to switch to Bazite or to Aurora or whatever, you can do a reset, pass along that thing, and then it will, wipe the user data from the machine, boom, and then you'll reboot into Aurora, and it should be magical. I don't know. We haven't tested yet. That's why it's experimental. This is one of those cases where this literally just landed in Bootsy, so now's your chance to start filing bugs and get involved. awesome feature, man. Like there's no lie. It's just an awesome feature. We're also gonna like start talking about ourselves a little bit more. I'm thinking about this. We purposely kind of go under the radar. We don't market ourselves at all. We're kind of more focused on the product itself or whatever. But this year we'll probably start doing it, especially as things like efficient downloads and stuff start to get landing, hopefully sometime this year. So we're actually going to talk about it. The problem with going to market, they call this a GTM action, is it's expensive to do correctly. And we don't like to do things incorrectly around here. So, if we're going to invest the money into someone making like an awesome video, like we got to make sure that the OS is solid and not changing, so that kind of user interface freeze is more important, right? Because when someone makes a video, you want it to be generic as possible so it can last us for as long as it can. And hopefully, we'll be engaging more with content creators and stuff. Metrics, what can you say? Our app store, 20% year-over-year growth. Flathub, 20% year-over-year. You pick the right tech, and Bazaar is the perfect portal to give people a pure Flathub experience. And look at that. That's just fantastic. Like, that is the only metric. Like, that is the metric I care about the most, which I think I want to say that this is on purpose, right? Like, it's literally about the applications and the workloads, not about us. So it's pretty cool. Please consider donating to Calumny. Always appreciated. Like if you're looking for the one thing to donate, that's the thing to donate to is Bazaar, because that delivers applications to users, makes them happy, and then they make app developers happy. So let's do that. The Homebrew yearly statistics are blowing up here. We are now on the 30-day. We're more popular, but Bluefin, Bazite here, and Aurora on the 30-day charts, we are the second most popular Linuxes. So Homebrew on Linux is becoming a thing. I was telling a friend, I was like, it looks like we're going to be the ones saying that this is a good idea. But it's awesome to get your feedback that it's working for you and stuff. And as we make these improvements, it's only ever going to get better. All that stuff is just OCI. This year we moved to LFX Insights as our platform. There's some, you can go into the site. You can actually search a bunch of open source projects in here, which is the point, because you want to have consistent metrics across open source so you can say things. You can go through here, check it out. I don't know, there's a bug. It thinks I'm this guy. I'm not. So you can go through all this kind of stuff. We'll continue to work with the team. I am constantly giving them feedback on the things that we'd like to see in the platform so we can embed better charts and things on the website. It is vitally important to us that you are able to see how healthy the project is, because that's like the number one thing. So we always have our analytics page here. We're finally crossing over 3,000. So like, that's working good. But like the analytics I care about are down here, right? Are we merging stuff? Are things fast? Are things happening? So that's good. So we got that. Our issue resolution, whatever. But hey, wow, up 5,000%. I don't know what that means, but we should probably get to her. And commit activities. We actually slowed down a lot this year compared to last year. As you said, we've done a lot of removal of Bluefin. So like getting rid of a bunch of stuff has been great. Again, that deduplication is really good. And you can also check out Aurora and Bazite are also on there. And this is a service available to all open source projects. So tell them to get involved. Let me go over the important dates. All right. Sometime in this January will be the transition to that diagram I told you will be complete. March 1st is the important date for Bluefin GTS users. About a month later, everyone goes to Fedora 44, who are non-LTS users. All the GTS users, all the Bluefin users who aren't LTS will be there. And in spring, somewhere, that's where we're expecting the GNOME OS Dakota Raptor. You can find us at SCaLE. We're going to try to go again. And Cloud Native Con in Europe, which is in Amsterdam here in March or April. Check it out on the link. And KubeCon North America. As always, you can leave a question here, and I will answer the best I can. And with that, thank you for putting. I don't know how long this. Wow, 35 minutes. Dang. All right. I'll see y'all later.